I'm John Little, and this is the ShockCast, broadcasting on a somewhat cool Taipei evening on Saturday, November 24th, 2018. Before getting started, let me remind you, as I always do, to watch or listen to this week's YouTube playlist. You can find it in the playlist section of the Omega Shock YouTube channel in the comments section below, or at the end of this video. Those are the best videos of this past week, and I'm sure that you'll appreciate them as much as I did. Now, let's begin today's program. Taiwan is falling. For decades, Taiwan has been losing a struggle against the corruption flooding in from the United States and Europe. Abortion has become cheap and easy. American videos and movies, music, and pornography have become ubiquitous. Anything and everything American has been idolized in one form or another. Taiwanese parents have chosen careers over children, and those same parents sent their kids to universities in the U.S. and Europe. Those kids came back with leftist ideas that are now bearing an ugly fruit. We are seeing this fruit in a homosexual campaign to gain more and more acceptance in Taiwanese society, and it's being especially felt in today's election. When Mrs. Little and I arrived in Taiwan in 2010, we saw very little of what we see today. Back then, no one had smartphones, and traditional ideas about relationships still seemed to be honored, at least in public. Over the intervening 8 years, all of that changed drastically. Now everyone has a smartphone. In fact, they are so glued to them that few seem to notice what is going on around them. Homosexuals have become brazen in their public relationships. And now we have an election on Saturday that has brought out homosexual groups onto the streets and into Facebook pages. I saw all of this over the past few days as I went searching for new equipment to increase the quality of my ShockCasts. We were constantly accosted by homosexual advocates asking us to vote against a ballot initiative that would separate homosexual unions from the current marriage law in Taiwan. Thankfully, as I broadcast this now, it looks like the heterosexuals have won. Strange to be calling it heterosexuals, or as if it's a movement of some kind. The pressure on Taiwan to conform to an obscene acceptance of homosexuality is incredible. Western countries have been pushing Taiwan officially and unofficially, and only the Trump administration has backed off from this horrifying push, and the Christians and many Buddhists have been pushing back. Unfortunately, it's too little, too late. The damage has already been done, and we are just now discovering just how much damage has already occurred. Just this week, I found out that erotic homosexual literature has been promoted in Taiwanese high school textbooks in Taiwanese schools. The vast majority of Taiwanese students favor homosexual marriage, homosexual rights, and the promotion of the same obscene gender ideas now being promoted in Western countries. All of this, all of it, can be laid at the feet of the U.S. and Europe, but especially the U.S., and I've watched it happen with my own eyes, and we did this to a tiny, defenseless island that didn't know what it was getting into when it embraced American culture with such enthusiasm. And now it's too late for Taiwan. Now, after I published that article, Chris from Poland gave an excellent perspective that we all need to see and understand, and he is an especially astute viewer of events because he comes from a country that suffered under the yoke of communism, and it was a really hard time. So let me read his comment. Hi John, Taiwan, extremely sad story. I just ask myself what is the reason and why it's happening, putting aside influence of external entities. And I have a theory, which is sad as well. Here in Poland, there is also a promotion of gay rights, but interestingly, it is mostly unsuccessful. Any party with such an agenda is sure to lose any elections countrywide, although minor victories in certain places are possible. Too many people are actively fighting such attempts. There is no chance to change the Constitution, which defines marriage as a man and woman relationship. Are we wiser? No, not at all. We were just less lucky, and years of suffering imprinted in our DNA that any ideology should be approached with suspicion. Wow, that's great, by the way. That you can never trust any government, foreign or domestic. Last but not least, 50 years of living in a communist country with no apparent end of communism in sight did not let the people forget that there is such a thing as Christianity, and that anything except God will always fail. Many people still do remember that, and this is not about our wisdom. It's about years of no hope, suffering, and poverty. My Western brothers and sisters, do you remember your mid-'80s? Again, this is Chris from Poland, still writing here. I do. As a teenager, I was throwing stones at the police, reading and distributing illegal books. All of those could put me and my parents in jail, and was standing 2 hours in a line to buy poor quality green oranges kindly provided by the comrades from Cuba. One ship was a transport for the entire country. 2 pieces of oranges per person allowed. You got the picture, right? Without suffering, we sadly tend to degenerate and to leave the Lord, which tells us something about the incoming years. Look at the map. Feeling disgusted when citing The Economist, but the map is telling. And he provides a link from The Economist about how Malta leads the way for gay and transgender rights in Europe. He moves on. And ponder the historical differences between green and red countries. Forget Turkey, you know. Note, statistically, Malta is as Catholic as Poland, but there is a difference. And you would be surprised how many people around me really despise the Roman Catholic corporation. There is a church, but the God is entirely a different thing. And I place God first. Well done, Chris. I love his comments. Oh, and thanks, America, for a new pagan tradition, the day of worshiping things and numbers attached to them, called prices. Did you know that the notion of a Black Friday was not even recognized by the Polish commerce before 2016? Now it really is. No, not yet like the link that he showed here in Stampedes and Fights, Black Friday's Chaos Erupts Around the World. You can find the link in his comment from yesterday's newsletter. For now, it looks like in America in maybe the 70s, meaning Poland is much like America in the 70s now. For now, hopefully this trend will stop, meaning the ongoing corruption. But I also fully realize how dramatic this stop will be. Yours in Christ, Chris. And I always enjoy his comments, and as well as the comments of so many Omega Shock readers. Really, really well done, and I couldn't help myself by publishing what Chris said. Now, let's get on to what I consider to be the most important part of the ShockCast, the news and analysis from this past week. But before going on, take a moment to click the subscribe button below and hit that bell to be notified when the next ShockCast happens. That means those of you that are watching this from YouTube. Those of you listening via MP3, make sure that you are subscribed to the Shock Letter at theshockletter.com. And there's a good reason to be subscribed to the Shock Letter, since I usually do not have the time on the ShockCast to talk about more than just a tiny bit of the news that I analyze on the Omega Shock website. So subscribe to the Shock Letter and get all the news and links that I analyze for free every Friday. Subscribing and unsubscribing is simple and easy, and there's no way that I would ever share your email with anyone, period. I'm not in this for the money and never will be. If you signed up and are not receiving the Shock Letter on Friday or the notice of this ShockCast on Saturday, check your spam folder. If it's not there, let me know by sending me an email at john@omegashock.com. Or you could leave a comment below or at the webpage for this ShockCast. Now, let's get on to the stuff that I really wanted to talk about. Now, it's only five links this week. And of course, the Shock Letter was actually quite small. I was very distracted getting ready for some important improvements for the coming year. The first one is Proverbs 28:2 from the KJV. For the transgression of a land, many. Anyway, that's the link title. Many of you know that I use a one-year Bible reading plan to read through the Bible in a year. Each plan can be a little different, so if your plan doesn't quite match mine, that's okay. here's where you can find the plan that I use, and I gave a link here of oneyearbibleonline.com. Again, oneyearbibleonline.com. You can see the link below in the show notes. Since God has moved me a lot, and in space as well as time, and promises to move me in the future, I need to stay light. This means that I use the electronic version on my phone. I prefer reading a physical book, and it's much more satisfying, but unfortunately, again, I need to keep light because God moves me around. But like I said, I get moved around a lot, and lugging lots of heavy books is difficult, and I'm not as young as I used to be. I'm catching up with the color of my hair. Now, why do I say this other than to encourage you to read through the Bible every year? Well, on Monday, I read this verse. For the transgression of a land many are the princes thereof. But by a man of understanding and knowledge, the state thereof shall be prolonged. And that's from Proverbs 28:2. Proverbs uses poetic language, and biblical Hebrew is a bit more complex than modern Hebrew. And I say that for those of you who check this out for yourself, which you should. The root of the word for princes in the above is sar, shin, resh. It does not mean son of the king. That's how we normally interpret a word like prince, but that's not what the Bible means when it uses the word sar. A sar is a government official, usually a high-ranking government official. For instance, the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Israel is Sar HaChutz. CH is as in Bach. It literally means prince of the outside of Israel. I don't want to give you too much of a Hebrew lesson here except to make the main point. When a nation is sinful, the government is large. You can point to all kinds of reasons for that, but Solomon makes a vital and important point that America is proving right now. If you want government to be small, then the people must be righteous, and the founding fathers of the United States knew this. Remember this quote from John Adams, who was one of the founding fathers. Quote, "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other." Close quote. John Adams. You will get tired of hearing me say that, but it is true. Just look at everything that America has become famous for. Murdering unborn children, the sexual revolution, pornography, adultery, homosexuality, divorce, glorification of sex and violence in movies, music that glorifies promiscuity, the corruption of Christianity. All of those things and more are what America represents today, and right now Taiwan is in the throes of a debate over the legalization of homosexual marriage. And the fault for this lies at the feet of America. This great evil is America's fault. She did this, and I could go on and on about how she did this, but she did it, and this corruption will be one more thing that is destroying Taiwan. American movies and music have been corrupting Taiwan for decades. American universities have educated an army of young Taiwanese students who came back to Taiwan to teach the foul and evil ideas that they learned in the U.S. And the American government has pressured Taiwan to cave in to the practice of abortion and gay rights. America did this because her transgressions are many. And because her transgressions are many, her government has grown and grown and grown and grown. When you look at the monster living in Washington, D.C., look in the mirror. Because we did this, it's our fault. It's because of our sin. Now, moving on in the same vein, here's this link from Breitbart. Bukhari, Rise of the Western Dissidents. As morality falls, government increases in size, and when government increases in size, repression increases. When repression increases, so do the number of dissidents. Eventually, my efforts on Omega Shock will bar me from entering certain countries. In fact, my criticism of Oink Erdogan might, but only might, make it a bit risky for me to fly Turkish Airlines, although I'm a pretty small fish, so I doubt it. The point is that telling the truth is going to get more and more dangerous as we move deeper into these last days. And then there's a video from John Holler, a John Holler Prophecy Update, and he titles it Intense Chaos, and it's a YouTube video. You'll actually find it in the links below and in the in the selection of videos that I produced for this week. This is a truly excellent presentation. This is a presentation that John made in the UK. I'm truly impressed by his presentations every week, but this one is especially good. You will be blessed by listening to it, and yes, listen to all of it. He does an exceptional job. Now, as a side note, every time that he says Shechem, yell at the computer screen with the words, "It's not Shechem, it's Shechem." I certainly yelled at him. John Haller is awesome, but he doesn't know how to say Shechem, CH as in Bach. If you have trouble saying it, do this. Say shh, and then let loose with a chem. There, that wasn't so hard, was it? Anyway, John Haller is such an excellent guy. I really enjoy his work. Now, this next one is Flash of Fathers and Sons, a bleak look at children training for jihad, from France 24. This man, the writer, was horrified by what he saw. He embedded himself deep within the jihadis, and he can't sleep at night after seeing and recording what he saw. What no one seems willing to realize is that what he recorded is happening right now among the Palestinians. Everything that is going on in Syria is going on in the areas under the control of the Palestinians. The only difference is that some of the women might be treated a little better. All the same glorification of death and violence is there, all of it. But the morons of the Western media can't see it and won't see it. Then there's another video from the same channel that John Haller broadcasts on, and it's from Justin Blanton, The New Apostolic Movement, Part 1. Lord willing, you'll hear me talk about Part 2. This is part of a two-part series. Mrs. Little was listening to this and made a very cogent remark that all of you need to understand. What the NAR is worshiping and calling for is the Antichrist. The NAR, or the New Apostolic Reformation, is an Antichrist movement. They are actively preparing the way for the Antichrist. They probably aren't the only group preparing the way for the Antichrist, but the what and why of their actions should be obvious to anyone. They are bringing the Antichrist to earth, and they will kill you if you oppose them. I have dealt with these people. They believe in conquering the world for Christ by force of arms, if necessary. And of course, in their eyes, it is necessary. If you oppose them, they want you dead. There was one situation that I was in where I wasn't completely certain if I was going to safely extract myself from that person's apartment in one piece. I kid you not. These people are not right with God, and they are not right in the head. They are in league with Satan without knowing it, and they will suffer an eternity in hell if they do not repent and seek to undo the evil that they have done. And yes, you can call yourself a Christian, you can claim to follow Christ, and yet serve Satan at the same time. Well, that's it for this week's ShockCast. I truly hope that you'll be ready for what is coming. A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. Proverbs 22:3. If you find a flaw in my reasoning, have a question, or wish to add your own viewpoint, leave a comment on the Omega Shock website or in the comments section below. Omega Shock readers and ShockCast listeners leave awesome comments, and I value each and every one of them. Again, make sure that you are subscribed to the Shock Letter at theshockletter.com. For those of you on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and click the bell to get notifications. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. All of that helps you and me get the message out. And as this video ends, you'll see links appear in the boxes within this video. Those links will take you to other ShockCasts, a link to subscribe to the ShockCast, as well as a link to the playlist of the important videos of this past week. And you will see the links to that playlist in the comments section below. And so, allow me to close with this blessing from Numbers 6:24-26. Yevarechecha Yehovah Yeshmirecha. Ya'er Yehovah Panav Elecha Vihuneka. Yisa Yehovah Panav Elecha V'yasem Lecha Shalom. The Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. The Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. Numbers 6, 24 to 26. May your pastor give you the words that you need to hear to help you walk the path that God has called you to follow. And Lord willing, we will see each other next week.